Welcome back to the Red Stool. It's me, your host, That Boy Best Boy. Today, rocking the UA drip because we're talking about none other than My Hero Academia chapter 299, Like Those Tragic Tales. And in this chapter, we actually get Hawks' backstory, and we find out that his real name is Keigo Tamaki. His father ended up murdering a man over petty cash and then shacked up with his mother and hid from the police for years, and which led to them having Hawks. His father is very paranoid, abusive. He forces them to stay in the house 24/7 because he's afraid if they go to town, they're going to talk to somebody or the police are going to use them to find him. So their life is dominated by someone who basically won't let them leave the house. And we actually see him abuse Hawks a few times. And when it comes to the mother, she's not too much better. It seems as though she's become recluse and shut in just because of all the years with the father and him forcing them to stay home. They have some sort of codependent relationship where she actually begs him not to leave, even though he mistreats them. They're living in a shack, and it seems her only escape is TV, which is the only thing she kind of seemed concerned about, because we see we see him hit Hawks for actually leaving the house because of his quirk, his fierce wing quirk. They vibrate when he hears people's clothes rustling or anything going on. So one day he follows them out and he goes into the city, but he said, "Oh, my quirk stopped, my wings stopped rustling, so I just came back home." But his father beats him anyway, and the mother doesn't really say much. She kind of just watches, and her biggest concern is, hey, the TV doesn't work. What are we going to do? But the father doesn't seem to care. He's like, get me a job, or who cares about TV? And you kind of see this is Hawks' life for many years until one day, Endeavor actually catches Hawks' father when he attempted to steal a car and flee. I guess his paranoia had gotten the best of him. So he's like, okay, I'm just going to leave. And he abandoned Hawks and his mother and was caught by Endeavor. We see that when Hawks was a kid, he has the Endeavor, like it's an Endeavor plushie, mainly because it was cheaper than an All Might plushie. His mother bought it for him because it only costed 500 yen. So for Hawks to see that Endeavor actually captured his father and he has his plushie, he has this moment when he's a kid. He's like, oh, man, wow, heroes are actually real. It's a real thing. Like, because, growing up the way that he did, his father's a murderer. He got away with it. And the abuse and the treatment that he gets at home, it's not hard to believe that he didn't think heroes were real. He probably just thought it was something he saw on TV as a kid. And his main goal growing up was, hey, I just don't want to be like my parents. I can see that they're broken in many different ways. So once his father is captured, it kind of puts his mother and him in a situation where as though they end up fleeing their shack because she harbored a fugitive, which is a crime, and she's afraid that now she'll end up in jail too. But Hawks, he's able to convince her to go to the police. And in going to the police, they say, hey, it's okay. We'll take you in and we'll put you and your family up. And we're going to make your family name disappear. It'll no longer be there. There's no more Tamaki. So in that, we see this is how Hawks how his life was before he was able to save that rich man and get, the support in becoming a hero. Then the chapter cuts to Hawks. He's out of the hospital and he's being driven to his home by Best Jenis. And we can see neither one of them are at 100%. Hawks, he's still bandaged up and he's wearing a neck brace. And then Best Jenis, he reveals that his body hasn't recovered from the drugs that they gave him to fake his death. So it seems to what happened was when Hawks went to Best Jenis' house to kill him, he actually gave him a drug made by the hospital, which gave him death-like symptoms. I guess it put him into some sort of a deep coma. That way he was able to present his body to Dabi, and they actually did run some tests on him, like, okay, is this Best Jenis? Because Dabi, he was very skeptical of Hawks and everything. So of course he triple check to make sure that that was Bess Jennings' body and put him up in one of the warehouses. They're like, you know what, we're gonna save his body for the right time. We're gonna make, they were probably gonna make some big announcement or display that they killed the number 3 hero just to disturb Hero Society. But Hawks was able to recover his body before the raid happened. We get to the coolest part of the chapter, which is Bess Jennings' car. And I'm going to call it the Fiber One, just because it's like this, he has this cool sports car and he's able to use his fiber manipulation quirk through it. Like they shoot out like little ropes. It's like it looks kind of like the Batmobile, like if a Batmobile and a Formula One race car fused together. And, I guess, Horikoshi gave us the Fiber One. That's what I'm calling it. So it's really cool. It's a really cool part of the chapter. He's actually able to stop some villains who kind of pop up and start terrorizing this town. They call themselves the Glutton Gang, and they're like, we're running this town now. The revolution's here. As he comes there, he stops them very quickly and is talking to some of the citizens in the town. He's like, hey, where's the police and like the other heroes? And they tell him like, hey, the police, since all of those jailbreaks, the police, they've been busy trying to round up the criminals, probably doing more work at the prisons to get them rebuilt, repaired, and secured, so that way they can keep the remaining villains that they have inside. And under scrutiny of the raids and everything that happened, the citywide destruction, the battle, the fact that Shigaraki escaped, the heroes in town have fled. They closed up their office and they're no longer there. They're fleeing the media to a degree. So I speculated a little bit about this when I was talking about, the jailbreak and All for One's master plan, how he's able to manipulate society. And right now, it seems, the heroes, they didn't, they already went through hell with the raids and everything, but here comes the high water. And that's just, you still have the media who's not going to be on their side after everything that happened. And then 2, the police, they're not going to be able to pick up the slack from heroes going into hiding or maybe even quitting because they're like, you know what, this hero job is too much. They could be a little bit trepidatious when it comes to fighting villains. But we see, we're seeing the ripples of everything that's been going on. And I do believe that Hero Society is going to be facing a big change and things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. So, just, something to keep our eye on, the villains movements. There's probably going to be a lot more there's probably going to be an uptake in petty crime because the heroes failed in their raid efforts to stop the villains, capture Shigaraki. All for One broke out of jail. And now, of course, these people are going to be inspirations to regular petty thugs. And they're going to feel like, okay, we can run rampant too. I can break into a convenience store. I can rob this bank. I can take over this town. Just because there's not a big hero presence or police presence, I believe that this is going to lead to, all the major hero schools, all their kids who do have license. I think they're going to be out on the streets. All these areas where there are no heroes or the police are stretched too thin, I believe they're going to be put here, and there just to cover some of the gaps. And it would be nice to, see the kids out there in that type of environment, patrolling the streets, doing doing more real hero work, because they're definitely ready for it. This drastic uptake in crime and losing a lot of their best personnel from the top 10. Definitely something, I look forward to seeing develop in the future. And then finally, towards the end of the chapter, we have Hawks. He ends up back at his house and we find out that his mother is gone. She ran away. She left him an apology letter because Dabi had some goons run up to their house. He found out where they lived and they threatened his mother, basically to tell them about his past life and everything that happened, so Dabi could use it to try to expose Hawks and, do some more to make him look less than worthy of being a hero. Hawks, he takes the news pretty well, actually. In fact, maybe with a little bit of joy, because now in his mind, his mother's gone, and we also find out that the safety committee has been disbanded for right now. And that could be because of them being partnered with Decatur and their organizations. So they're closing down now just to make sure that they have all of his people caught and no one slipped through the cracks. Or once again, Hero Society could be in for a big change. And since now there's no one to give orders, and from what it sounds like, Hawks is changing tone, he could be ready to take up some vigilantism, and a lot of other people could. The same way, I'm speculating that they could put the kids out there on the street to cover up some of the heroes. Some of the kids could run off and decide that we're going to do some vigilante stuff, because if there's no safety committee, then there's no one who's telling them what they can and can't do. A hero needs to be a hero no matter what. So actually, Endeavor. Hawks, he heard Dobby's backstory and, the treatment that they received, everything that they did to Endeavor. And towards the end, he's like, I got to clean up my past. And that includes Endeavor. He's in trouble. Now, initially, I feel like, it could be read as a threat. Like, oh, we're going to see Hawks. He's going to fight Endeavor because, he too was abused as a child. So he probably has that strong, emotional feeling about what he did. But I think what he means is, they could be planning some sort of attack on Endeavor, or more so Hero Society in general. Because if your number one hero falls, then where does that leave? What does that leave society to look to? So if Endeavor is in trouble, then the rest of society has to be in trouble too. Since he's the number one hero, he's holding up, he's holding up the idea that this is a new peaceful era and, trying to be that bright light in All Might's shadow. But if we see that go away, then that's going to be a bigger sign to the villains, the criminals, and everybody, even the heroes, that, maybe things are changing. This could be the big new villainous era. I believe Hawks is going to take this opportunity to do as he sees fit and be the type of hero that he wants to be, versus being governed by a committee and the media and this entire storm that's been brewing ever since the raid. In my opinion, it's a pretty good chapter. It just leaves us with a lot of questions. There's a lot to think. There's a lot to talk about. I'll definitely be in the comments. Feel free to stop by, drop a like, subscribe, definitely share. Thanks for watching. Peace.